Batman Arkham Shadow from Camouflage has passed 1 million players. Now, to some people, this might not sound like a lot. I know 1 million's a big number, but to some people, they're probably looking and they're saying, now hold on, what about this game? It had 7 million, this game had 15 million. You have to remember this is a VR game, and despite what anyone wants VR to be, because I know that there's like subsets of people who are extremely passionate about it, it is a smaller market. Like there's not as many adopters as there is of something like PC gaming or the PS5 or the Xbox Series. So I think this is really interesting to see that it was this successful. And in case you don't remember, this was a game that I was a little bit skeptical of when it was announced. Now, it's one that I have since changed my mind on because after getting access to the game, actually lead development director Ryan Payton was gracious enough to gift me access to this game, which I thought was really cool of him. He was someone I've talked to in DMs, very, very cool guy, very passionate about the Arkham franchise. Well, after playing this game, for me, do I still think it's different? Yes, but I think it's a very good game. So it's interesting for me to see this hit this level of success because I do think it shows a couple things. First off, it does show that this VR market is growing. Secondly, it does show that there's definitely still a big interest in the Batman Arkham series. And now as well, this game was nominated for multiple awards. It won VR Game of the Year. I believe that's the title of it from the Game Awards, and I believe it won it at least 1 or 2 other times. So it is getting a lot of different recognition, and Camouflage as well did release a new update, I believe on the 29th of January, so just like a weekish ago, and talked about it on the 30th of January, saying that they are doing even more features, and that a lot of these features, by the way, were actually inspired and directly impacted by player feedback, like they were listening to the players. So I think it's really cool to see how successful this is. I do have a question of the day for you while we talk about this for a few minutes, which is, what are your thoughts on the future of the Batman Arkham series in general? Do you want a future? Do you not want a future? Do you think this is where it should end? Let me know. You know, I've seen a lot of very passionate answers to that question without it even being asked. I've seen so many people say, hey, Kevin's gone, Roger just isn't the same. I've seen a lot of people say, well, now hold on, you know, Kevin wanted the best for this character. If there's more stories to tell, why not let Roger take a crack at it? I've even seen like in between answers like, well, maybe do Roger, but don't go past Arkham Knight. So it's like I've seen all of these different, I don't know, very passionate responses from the fan base of the Arkham series. And I really do wonder what you guys think in the comments down below, and why you think that, by the way. Not just what you think, but why you believe it. But looking at this, I think that this is a very good sign for multiple things. Like I already said, this does show that that VR market is growing. I believe it was like 6 to 9 months after its launch, Half-Life Alyx in VR had gotten something like 2 million players. So the fact that less than 3-ish months in, or around 3-ish months in, they surpassed 1 million is already a lot for a game like this. And that's not a slight, it's just when you're going based on numbers. You know, when you have fewer people on one machine than another machine, and then the game is exclusive to that machine, the number doesn't have to be quite as high to be impressive, I would say. For me, I think the most frustrating thing about this game is, like I said before, just the fact that it was hard to record. I actually stopped my Let's Play of it over on Degenerate Plays, at least for now. I have up through like part 8 or 9, just because it was really difficult to get the entire field of view, difficult to show off to people. VR is something that it's like, if you're not experiencing it, it's kind of difficult to get the impact of. And I think part of that's the MetaQuest in general as a headset is not as good at recording as something like PlayStation VR is, but that doesn't affect the quality of this game. The quality of this game was very high. This game focused a lot on a detective aspect, building off of Batman Arkham Origins. In a lot of ways, it felt like not just a celebration of Arkham Origins, but a celebration of the entire franchise, and I could tell that the developers actually cared about previous games. Other than the segment in Suicide Squad, I know I've said this a few times over the last year or two, I guess year. It feels like Suicide Squad's been out for 5 years. Like when you experience a traumatic car crash and it feels like it was so long ago, but just yesterday. That's how Suicide Squad feels to me. But other than just the Batman Arkham Museum exhibits, which completely ignored Batman Arkham Origins, essentially, in a lot of ways, it didn't really feel like there was a celebration of the Arkham universe in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It felt like it was really trying to cosplay being in that universe, but it didn't feel like it was proud of it. It didn't feel like it was an honor to be there. It didn't feel like it had any reverence for the history of that fiction. I would say that this game, Batman Arkham Shadow, is the exact opposite of that. I think it did such a good job with actually showing reverence to that history. And the more recent patch that came out with it, which, you know, these are still being informed by player feedback, it included a lot of different, like, quality of life updates. It had New Game Plus, it had an Infinite Predator mode, it had a post-cinematic cutscene which added to the story, and more. And now in February, when I'm recording this, they're doing things like more Arkham-inspired Predator maps. So things like Silent Night, there's going to be a map inspired by that. There's going to be a map inspired by Natural Selection, one inspired by Quiet Waters. They're adding an extreme difficulty, I Am the Night mode. Like, they are still very committed to this game and committed to making it a video game that really does capture the essence of Batman Arkham, just through a first-person lens where you are the one swinging your fists around. For me personally, I think that this whole thing, it's like an interesting learning experience, because there's a lot of the times where I will make a prediction about something, like, or say, I'm hesitant on this, I'm not really a big fan, and then the thing comes out and I feel justified in it. You know, like, I feel like, oh yeah, I was kind of right. Things like multiverses. I remember that I talked about that when it first launched. It was in beta, and I said, you know, there's some positives about this, but I really don't see this going in a way that's positive for the gaming community. I really don't see how this game will be built to last. A lot of it seems to be based around live service, and which, hey, I'm okay with sometimes. You know, I love Fortnite, I love things like Marvel Rivals, but I just kind of talked about the preservation of the game and how, as a fighting game and a game competing with something like Smash, I didn't think it would have that same staying power. And I remember a lot of people were really mad, but lo and behold, that game is dead now. Like, there's no future for it. They found out the hard way, both players and actually Player First Games and WB and all these people, that it really wasn't built to last. You know, so it's like in a situation like that, I feel like, not to say I'm always right, because I'm not, I feel like I kind of called it, it happened, and then the game died. You know, I did the same thing for Evil Dead, the game, where I kind of called, hey, look, I'm not really sure what the staying power on this is going to be. There's not really a very good dedicated single player. There's only a little bit of content. I think they could do a lot more with this, and people got mad at me, and lo and behold, the game died. So it's like, I feel like a lot of the times when I'm looking at games coming out, I can kind of tell this isn't for me, or this is not a permanent fixture. With this game, I really did think it was going to be a little bit more of a passing fad, because VR, while it has caught on, I don't think it caught on in the way that enthusiasts of the tech or even some of its biggest advocates thought it would as quickly as it did. And so for me, I really thought Arkham Shadow was going to be a little bit more of a passing fad. Like, it's going to be kind of like Batman Arkham VR, a fun little experience. It's kind of neat, little look into the world, and we move on. But I really do believe that Batman Arkham Shadow as a game, I think, is only held back by being MetaQuest exclusive. I understand why it is MetaQuest exclusive. I don't need a lecture from MetaQuest fan 32 in the comments about why it is, because I've seen that before. I get that it's meta-funded this game. I understand that. I'm not a total moron. But I do think the MetaQuest tech itself, from like limits on recording, all the way down to people already having a VR headset like PSVR and not wanting to buy another one, I think is really the only thing that's limiting things like the player access to this game. As a game, I think it's great. I'm not sure if it'll ever come to anything else, who knows? Maybe in 2 years it'll be on other VR headsets as well. But either way, I think it's a great game. I think it's nice to see it be so successful. I think it's nice to see such great developers behind it, like Ryan Payton and the Camouflage team, being celebrated. I think it's great to actually see the game be well received by players as well, not just like a bunch of industry bozos. Like, you know, you can get any games journalist to, at the drop of your hat, endorse or turn on your game, and that can help. But I think at the end of the day, if the players don't connect with it, like, the bigger group, not just some writer for Kotaku, that's where it becomes a problem. And players did connect, the people who played the game did connect with it. So I guess in closing, I'm just kind of wondering what you think the future of the series should be. I mean, would you be open to another one of these? Would you eventually want to see this game ever licensed to or ported to another system like PSVR? I have no idea if it ever would be, maybe in a few years, maybe never, who knows? But I'm interested in your thoughts down below. If you enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe. I'm trying to grow our other channels actually a lot this year, so I'm trying to grow Degenerate Plays, Playthrough Games podcast style over there. I just dropped a very big Full Metal Alchemist video with my wife Jill over on Magical Jill, which is our more anime focused channel. And as well, I've been covering things like Bloodborne over on JayRPG. So lots of stuff there. We have a Fortnite code and we have our own store, cosmobunny.shop, where you can use code DJAY123 for 10% off your first purchase of coasters, keychains, trays, and more. These are made from recycled, repurposed paper from comic books, manga, magazines, and more. No, we don't go buy new ones and then destroy them. What we do is we get used books that are very heavily damaged, that are either deeply discounted or given away because they can't be sold. We turn that into something new and recycle the rest of the paper. So it's one of my favorite things to do. We're actually going to be ramping up production on that stuff again, doing one-of-a-kind pieces. We hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, everyone, stay shui.